Okay, we are going to continue working on quadratics. We are today going to complete the sum and product chart. Now, yesterday we got introduced just to setting up the sum and product chart. But today we're going to not only set up the sum and product chart, but we're going to complete it. And you may say, okay, why? What does the sum and product chart have to do with quadratics? Well, yesterday we learned what the sum and product chart was, how to find the sum, how to find the product. Today we're going to complete the chart, and then tomorrow we're going to show you how to use the sum and product chart to factor and solve the quadratics. So we have already solved the quadratics by taking square roots. We'll continue to do 2 or 3 of those in our assignments. And eventually we will solve taking square roots, we will solve by factoring. So we've taken the last couple of days to get introduced to our factoring in general, or what we need to do before we can even factor. That's a better thing. So the last couple of days we've spent working on the sum and product chart. Today we'll complete the sum and product chart. Tomorrow we will apply the sum and product chart. Okay, so the reason why we're even using the sum and product chart at all is because it is going to help us to solve quadratics again by factoring. Okay, so what I've done is I've just imported some things here. Now, the difference between today and yesterday, every single quadratic was already set up for you that you could just automatically identify the sum and product. Now, today that's not the case. One side, okay, and do not pay any attention to this, these directions. We don't care about those directions because we're not going to solve. We are going to set up the sum and product chart, and then we are going to complete the sum and product chart, okay? Before we can set up the sum and product chart, and you need to know this, one side has to be 0. We have to have one side of our quadratic equal to 0. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. You need to listen closely. We want to always work with a positive leading coefficient on our quadratics. So if we have to manipulate, if we have to move anything around, we're always going to choose to work with a positive leading coefficient. That means our A value, our coefficient of our quadratic term, is always positive if we have to manipulate it in any way. If it's already set up for us, if our one side's already equal to 0 and our leading coefficient is negative, yeah, we don't care, okay? So, first of all, step 1, okay? Step 1, and let me put over here 1, we're going to that's not true. 1, we're going to get one side equal to 0. 2, then we're going to identify your sum and your product. 3, then we will complete the chart. So those are the things in the order that we're going to do. We're going to get one side equal to 0. We're going to identify the sum and product, and then we're going to complete the chart. That's as far as it's going to go on this aspect of our quadratics, okay? Right now, that is a negative 64x, okay? Because my leading coefficient is already positive. So what I'm going to do, additive inverse, add 64x to both sides. We know this drill. Oops, even though I wrote it wrong. Said it right, wrote it wrong. Okay, what I do to one side, I do to the other. Did it again. Goodness. There we go. Draw my handy dandy line, add straight down. Now again, we need to always look to combine like terms. None of these are like terms, so I'm going to write them in proper form. 7x squared plus 64x plus 64 equals 0. I have completed step 1. One side of my equation is equal to 0. Now, step 2, I'm going to identify my sum and product. This is exactly what we did yesterday. So step 2, I'm going to get my chart ready. This is my sum. This is my product. Okay? So the sum is the coefficient of our linear term. Our linear term is our variable with the exponent of 1. In this instance, our linear term is the 64x. So our sum is 64. So I'm going to put my 64 here. Our product is the leading coefficient, my coefficient of my quadratic term, which is 7. My product is going to be A, my value of A, which is 7, times my value of C, which is 64. So my product is literally 64 times 7. This is 28, 42, 44. So this is 448. So this was exactly what we did yesterday. Today, we're going to take it just one step further. That's it. One step further. We're going to complete this. And you might say, okay, what do you mean by complete it? Okay. This is where the challenging part comes in. Each time, every time, all the time we use a sum and product chart, we are going to have to factor our products. Now, even though I multiplied 64 times 7 to get 448, I have to start factoring what factors of 448 multiply to be 448, but add to be 64. Hence, multiply product, add sum. So I always start, I don't know why, I always start with what I multiplied. I always start with my values of A and C. 7 times 64. Okay, we multiplied those. 7 times 64 is 448. But 7 plus 64 is 71. 71 does not equal 64. That's not going to help me. So I need to get other alternatives. I need to start factoring. Whatever it is, their sum needs to be 64. Now, how I do it, and this is no rhyme or reason, 64 is also 8 times 8, okay? So I could literally, and that's how I do it. Now, first thing I see 64. 64 is 8 times 8. So I know this is 8 times 8, so 7 and 8. I know that 56 times 8 is also going to be 64 because 7 times 8 is 56 and I have 8. If you don't believe me, we're going to go 56 times 8. 6 times 8 is 48. Carry your 4. 8 times 5 is 40 plus 4 more is 448. So 56 times 8 is 448. That's what I'm needing. 56 plus 8 is 64. So this right here is what I was looking for. And actually, that right there is what we're going to stop at today. Okay? This is my sum and product chart completed. First thing I did was get one side equal to 0. Second thing I did was identify the sum and product. Third thing I did was complete the sum and product chart. I got the factors of 448. Okay, I found out what multiplied to be 448 and added to be 64. And tomorrow we're going to take this information and do something else with it. But today this is where we're going to stop. Now, it's not always that simple. Sometimes we have 4, 5, or 6 lines before we actually find out what multiplies to be our product and adds to be our sum. So we'll just see. We'll go ahead and do number 2. We'll see how that goes. Again, first thing we do is get one side equal to 0. Okay, my leading coefficient, my quadratic coefficient is already a positive, so I'm going to move this negative 28 to the left side. Additive inverses, what I do to one side, I do to the other. I get 5x squared plus 27x plus 20, and I'm squishing mine together. I'm going to give myself more room. 5x squared plus 27x plus 28 equals 0. None of these are like terms. 27x is not the same as an x squared. 28 has no variable, like terms. First step is completed. One side is equal to 0. Second step, I need to identify my sum and my product. Again, my sum is the coefficient of my linear term. In this case, okay, my linear term is 27x. The sum's the coefficient, so I've got 27. The product is the value of A, which is 5, times the value of 28. 5 times 28 is 148. If you don't know that, stick it in your calculator. You can also say 28 times 5, 0, carry your 4. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 more is 140. I don't know where I got 148. I knew it was 140. Sorry about that. So, making up stuff, I guess. All right, so we have 27 and 140. The next step is to complete our sum and product chart. I always, on my products, I always start with, whoa, let me do that again. I always start with what I multiplied together to get that product. This is 27 and that's 140. So I multiplied 5 times 28. 5 times 28, if I add that together, that's going to be 33, and that doesn't work. So I'm not going to do that. Now I also know 28 is 4 times 7. So I'm going to try 20 times 7. When I add 20 plus 7, I get 27. So I got it in the very next one. This is my sum and product chart completed. Once I find what multiplies to be my product and adds to be my sum, I'm going to circle that and I'm going to stop at that point today. Now I'm finished and I'm going to go to my next one. Okay, I'm looking for a specific one. Let's see what I can find. Number 3 is going to work out well. Maybe. There we go. Number 3 is going to work out well. All right. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get one side equal to 0. That means I'm going to subtract my 32x, my linear term, from both sides. Again, because my leading coefficient is already positive. So I have to manipulate it, so I'm moving everything left. Like terms, I don't have any. I get 7x squared minus 32x plus 16 equals 0. Step 1 is done. One side's equal to 0. Step 2, identify my sum and my product. My sum is the coefficient of my linear term. My linear term is a negative 32x. So my coefficient of my linear term is a negative 32. You keep the sign with the number. The other times were already positive. I didn't write my positive sign down because it's positive unless noted otherwise. So my sum is a negative 32. My product is 7 times 16. That's 112, I believe. We're going to try it. 16 times 7, 42. Oops, there, 42. Carry your 4, 11, 112. Okay, so I've got it right. And you know the song and dance. We're going to start filling out our product chart. Again, I always start with what I multiplied, 7 times 16. Now keep in mind, and this is where we have to be careful. This is a negative. I'm multiplying to be a positive, but it adds to be a negative. So if it's a positive here, I either have 2 positives or 2 negatives. And since that's a negative, I'm going to have 2 negatives. Negative 7, let me erase that little dot. Negative 7 times a negative 16, because I'm multiplying negative times a negative, is a positive. So that's 112. A negative 7 plus a negative 16 is a negative 23? And that's not what I want. I need 32. So I've got to continue. Now, 16 is 8 times 2. That's the first thing I came to. Let's see, that would be negative 56 times a negative 2, which is going to be 112. But when I add those together, I get a negative 58. Okay, that didn't work either. Okay, so I had 8 times 2. So let's go. I've got a negative 7 times 2, which would give me a negative 14 times a negative 8. But a negative 14 times a negative 8, that is a positive 112, but that adds to be a negative 22. Well, gee, that's not helping me either, okay? But 8, yeah, I'm still going. 8 is 4 times 2. So if I'm looking here, I've got 4 times 2 times 2. So I've got a negative 7 times 4 could be a negative 28 right there. And then this is 8 times a negative 8. Gee, not a negative 8, it'd be 4. That's my fault. Negative 7 times 4 is a negative 28. Then I have 4. I have to have 2 negatives. So I got a negative 28 times a negative 4. That is going to give me a positive 112. When I add those together, that's going to give me a negative 32. Okay, extend my little chart down a little more. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a product of 112 and the sum of a negative 32. That took me a little longer, but that's okay. I got what I needed. Sometimes what I'm looking for goes quickly and sometimes it doesn't, okay? Let's jump down to number 6. And again, we're not solving today. We are identifying the sum and product, and then we're completing the sum and product chart. That's it. We will utilize what we're going to do with this information at a later point. All right? So from number 3, I'm going to jump down to number 6. And again, we have to pay attention to our signs. One side has to be equal to 0. Now, grant you, I could just subtract 5r squared from both sides, but we are always going to practice utilizing, working with, when we're manipulating, a positive coefficient of our quadratic term. So in this instance, I'm going to have to subtract 26r from both sides. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Additive inverses. I do it at the same time. I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. Draw my handy dandy line equals. Positive 24, negative 24, additive inverse is 0. Positive 26r, negative 26r, additive inverse is 0. On the right side, I get 0. The left side, proper form, highest exponent to lowest exponent, 5r squared minus 26r minus 24. Okay, so we have completed step 1. We got our one side equal to 0. Next thing we do is we're going to identify our sum and product. The sum is a negative 26. My product is 5 times a negative 24. 24 and 5, so 112. And notice 5 and a negative 24 is a negative 100. That's 120. I don't know where I got that other. It's 120. Negative 120. If you don't know that, 24 times 5, and it's going to be a negative because you're multiplying by a negative. This is 20, carry your 2, 10, so you get 120. So you do get a negative 120, and that just kind of looks funny, so I'm going to fix the writing there. Negative 120, and this is not there, okay? So we get negative 120. So again, same song and dance. I need to decide what multiplies to be a negative 120 and adds to be a negative 26. Since I need a negative number on my product, one of my numbers has to be negative, okay? The larger number is going to have to be negative because when I add them together, I have to have a negative sum. So in this instance, I always start with these. I multiplied a negative 24 times a positive 5. If I add those together, that's a negative 21, which is not what we want. So I have to start other methods. Now, just me, and honestly, it's not going to work. I already know that, but I'm going to show you. I got a negative 120. A negative 12 times a positive 10 is a negative 120. But when I add those together, I get a negative 2. I don't even want that one. Okay, so let's see, 24 is also 8 times 3, okay? So if 24 is 8 times 3, I could go a negative 15 and a positive 8, okay? But when I add those together, that's a negative 7. Okay, that doesn't get me where I need to be. Let's see, 24, 12, we got 5, 16, nope. 5 and 6 is 30, okay? So 30 goes into it, so 30 times 4. So I have a negative 30 times a positive 4. If I add those together, I do get a negative 26. And that's what I'm looking for. And today, that's where I stop, okay? So you're not gonna have a lot of these. The hardest part of the entire thing is completing the sum and product chart, is to find what multiplies to be your product and adds to be your sum. So you're going to have 6 of these that you're going to practice on this evening. I am going to mix in a couple of the other practice problems that we've been working on. So thank you for your time.